Hello, and welcome to the Divorced Dadvocate, divorce support for dads, where we help dads create a healthy and less traumatic divorce. My name is Jude Sandoval, and I'm your host. I created this podcast and the Divorced Advocate community as a result of my own high conflict divorce, and because you as a dad deserve all the resources necessary to thrive through this challenging time. I encourage you to check out our website at thedivorcedadvocate.com, where there are resources that correspond to this episode, as well as free access to our membership community, where you will find live meetings, free workshops and courses, private discussion groups, and more. And now, on to this week's episode. Hello, and welcome to the show. Thank you for tuning in this week. Today, I have a very important guest that has a very important mission that we're going to talk about and get you involved with. Before we jump into that, though, I wanted to welcome James, a new member to the Divorced Advocate community. If you are not part of the community yet, check it out at thedivorcedadvocate.com. We've got a new group workshop, group coaching going on October 29th. So check that out as well and get involved, get the divorce support that you need wherever you're at in this process at thedivorcedadvocate.com. All right, my guest, from a father fighting for his children's rights to a nationally recognized advocate, Robert Garza's journey is a powerful story of transformation. He is the architect of Texas's groundbreaking parental equality law, and his work is now reshaping family courts across the country. As the new director of Americans for Judicial Accountability and the vice president of National Family Justice, please welcome a true champion for families, Robert Garza. Hi, Robert.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Hey, Robert, thank you for being on. Thank you for what you are doing. It's a true blessing that you're doing this work. I know that a lot of the dads listening today are going to be very interested in what you're doing because it is going to have a huge impact on their lives in the future. It already has in Texas. But before we jump into what that is that you are working on and the specific laws and how they'll impact the dads, share a little bit about your 15-year custody journey battle, if you will, and how that's kind of shaped why you're doing what you're doing.
Sure. So I went through about 16 years now of family court, 43 plus false allegations. I spent $700,000 plus just trying to be a father in my kids' lives. It's not been an easy journey. You know, I was just a parent, just like all of the listeners out there. I didn't know anything about family law, criminal law, constitutional law, and had to, learn all this going through this process.
So, yeah, okay. Well, I'm sorry to hear that. I've experienced that as well, 12 years in family law court. That'll give you an education, right? 43. So you've got me on the 43 CSP or CPS allegations for sure. While I've experienced some of that is just disconcerting, right? Having people looking in your life all the time. Share a little bit how that experience helps you to start to understand the landscape of the family law and family law courts.
Sure. So every time you go in family court, you're having to live whatever consequences come out. And after going to court so many times in over 16 years, you get educated very quickly on what's going on. And so I saw all of the legal loopholes that opposing counsel was able to play with delays, with no accountability, with false allegations. And so because of going through that and living that, now I understand those loopholes, and now we're changing them with the legislature and shutting all those legal loopholes down.
Okay. So let's talk about some of those loopholes, and let's talk about, actually first, give us an example of what you're talking about as far as a loophole, because some people might be thinking, and the first thing I thought was like, okay, so if there's loopholes, why hasn't somebody already thought about this? Why hasn't it happened? But, those listening and they haven't been in family law court for 12, 15, 6, 20 years will say, okay, well, this makes perfect sense why there's loopholes. But kind of give us an example of what one of those would be, and then let's jump into some of the bills.
Sure. So one of the biggest legal loopholes that there are, well, it's not even a legal loophole. Perjury is a felony pretty much in every state. Judges
Mhm.
are not prosecuting for it in family court. They're doing it in criminal court, but not family court. This is the problem where most of everyone's problems are coming from. People can get up there, they can perjure themselves, lie on the stand, and same thing with false allegations. False allegations are rampant through family court, and there's no accountability for them. And knowing this, so going through 43 of these, I figured out how my ex did this, and she did it with mandatory reporters. They've all been ruled out. My ex never came to court and said I did anything. She always did it through third party people. And once that allegation was ruled out, I'd have to pay my attorney to go to court, get the protective order dissolved. And then at the time, I would ask for the judge to give me the time back to repair the parental bond that was taken by precaution by the court. She never did. She got tired of me asking for it every time all this would happen and said, okay, let's save it for final trial. I saved it for final trial, and she never ruled on it. Took over 100 days to rule, got things wrong. And this is a problem with the legal system. And so what I did was I came out with time taken, time back, that when you return the child, you shall return the time, the same type of time, and the same exact amount of time. And in doing so, it disincentivizes making a false allegation, but not a real allegation.
Right. Okay. So let's clarify for the listeners the differences between civil court and family law court, because what you said is accurate, that if you do this in civil court, you make false allegations or you allege abuse, and it's not, whatever you're lying about, then you are responsible in civil court. Family court, that just gets completely, you're supposed to be responsible, but it just gets completely ignored. Right. And so it's just two different applications of law in two different types of court. Is that correct?
Yes. So in family court, there's what's called a preponderance of evidence. And that is like the lowest standard of evidence. That's 50% plus a feather. So literally, when you go in there, if you don't understand what that is, it's literally you can say whatever you want. And that's what the problem is. And if the judge believes it, it sounds more true or less true. That's what they're judging you on. It's either more true or less true. In criminal court, the standard is clear and convincing evidence. So now you have to show proof and why. And then they also have beyond a reasonable doubt. No. Yeah. Is it? Sorry. It's clear and convincing. Sorry. Preponderance of evidence, clear and convincing, and beyond a reasonable doubt. Those are the three evidences that they go by. But the family court's the lowest, and that's the problem with what family court's doing.
Right. So, for instance, in one of my experiences, there was just an allegation made. There is no preponderance of evidence. There's no, there is no clear evidence around it. And they do these in ex parte meetings, and then and then you get a protection order, and then you have to spend, like you said, the money in either going through child protection services or a full investigation, or then appear before the court. And then you lose time. Like, for instance, I lost weeks with my daughter. I know that you've talked about there's like large periods of time that you missed over the time that you've been doing this. And then the courts do not do anything about that. And so you wrote this bill to then mitigate this, so that does it stop it, or what does it do? How does it curb that, if you will, that behavior of making these false allegations?
Sure. So the way that my ex did it is that she went to a mandatory reporter, reported that I was harming the kids. The mandatory reporter thought they were doing the right thing and reported it to CPS because they're mandated to. CPS, which is Child Protective Services, thought they were doing the right thing and opening a case. And as soon as they opened up that case, my ex would grab that report number and go to family court and get a protective order, restraining order based on an open CPS investigation. All of this was done. Now I've shut that down in Texas, and it's going in a lot of other states too. So if the judge would have just given me the time back the first time, second time, my ex probably never would have done this, but she saw it as a way to play keep away with the children. And so every time another one, they would rule it out, she would make another allegation. And that was the issue. And it kept going, going, going. And the courts never figured out what had happened until we got to final trial. And we even asked my ex, like, how many of these allegations did you make, or these reports? And she was like, none, and started smiling. That was the whole reason. She knew she did it by proxy. And so
Yeah.
instead of going back after her or anything else, I came out with these laws. Now, the time taken, time back gives those resources back to all of these. Well, so the time taken, time back gives these resources back to all these agencies like the family court system. Now they're not backed up, and it's usually called, I coined it, it's called holiday hijacking, and it's to let the court know that that person's trying to hijack my holiday with a false protective order, restraining order. And once they do that, is that your car alarm?
Yeah. It's
Sorry about
outside.
that.
Yeah.
All right, so you're gonna have to cut it. Boop.
No.
So
Okay, we're real here, so it's
Yeah.
real life. This is real life stuff we're talking about, my friend. So
Yeah. So holiday hijacking is when somebody goes to a court and gets a protective order, restraining order right before a major holiday. So it's right before Christmas, right before Halloween, or, spring break. Lines of lawyers are out there at 3 o'clock or right before the kids getting out of school filing these things. Judges know this is an issue, but they keep doing it. So this discourages that type of behavior by giving that time back. So if you miss a spring break, then you'll get two in a row. If you miss a Christmas, then you'll get two in a row. And so that discourages a false allegation, but it will not discourage a real allegation.
yeah. So I want to be clear. A mandatory reporting person is like a therapist, is like a school teacher, etc. So what your ex did was creatively seed something in one of these people's minds that was a false allegation, that then they, because they're mandatory reporters, they have to report this. So they don't have a choice. So her way of doing this, and so this is just another, there's lots of creative ways. And I'm pointing this out because I want to point this out to the dads that are listening, because lots of them deal with this, or lots of them see some of this stuff, or some of them are like, well, mine would never do, my wife would never do that, right? And yeah, I know, it's just we get then they get surprised by this. So I wanted to point this out so that they can look for the signs. But then what happens is they have to report this, and then your ex took it, and then there's an automatic protection order. The other one you just described, which is the holiday hijacking, is they and I've experienced this, like right before the parenting time is supposed to start with the new parent for the holiday, then they file something, and then you miss all that time. And so now what you're doing with this bill is it makes it absolutely mandatory for the parent that has created this situation and made the false allegations. Because when you go through it, then like you said, 43 times you went through the protection services coming out, finding no evidence of it. When they find no evidence of that, then that time has to be returned, whether it's a day or 2 days, a week, or the holiday. And then you said that also if it's the holidays, then they get like the next two. So it actually disincentivizes them, because then they're actually going to be losing time with their kiddos if they start doing this stuff. Is that correct?
Correct. And the other thing that we did, it also passed in North Dakota, but we gave it an extra boost in North Dakota. We put double the time back. So that really discourages that one.
Yeah. Well, even better. And so for those saying, well, okay, but can this possibly harm a kid on somebody who's actually doing harm to the kids? The answer is no. And
No.
And why is the answer no? Tell us why.
Right. So in my bill, I also write in there that it's only after there's been an investigation by CPS or the police department or anybody, any investigative agency, anybody, when it comes back that there was no finding of abuse or neglect, then is when you can get your time back or anything like that. Now, just in case there's something that falls through, there's also another clause in there that now it puts the burden of proof on the other person. Instead of you having to say why you're innocent, now they have to bring more stuff and say why you don't deserve that time back. It's an automatic time back unless they still want to keep fighting this. But there is no proof. It's been ruled out.
Seems to be right. Which seems to be a huge problem, particularly with dads that I've experienced. It's not reciprocal. It doesn't happen. Oftentimes I see with the mom, if the dad's doing some BS, and let's be clear about what we're talking about here too. This is not a dad or mom issue. This rules out anybody screwing around with doing any kind of false allegations, alienation, stuff like this. This really starts to put a damper on that. Now it won't stop it like you just described. You're going to have to go through the process. You're going to have to deal with protective services or whatever investigation. You might have a hearing, or you might have to hire an attorney, or you might have to go to court and have a hearing with your attorney. So it is still going to take you having to go through this. But what it does is then they get time back.
When they return the child, they return the time.
Return the time immediately. So that's the parenting time part of it. Is there a component of this where attorney's fees or anything like that gets reimbursed back? And if not, why is that not part of the bill?
So that's already in what you're filing. So what you're filing right now is to dissolve that protective order, restraining order, and then you can ask for your attorney's fees.
Okay, so you
can ask for your attorney's fees in anything.
Right. Okay. So then you could potentially, but that doesn't mean that you're going to get it automatically, right? So in the bill, you won't get attorney's fees, but you will definitely get time back with your kids because that is part of the bill, right?
That's the biggest part. So what are you going to do right now? Every time I filed, I paid my attorney's fees and I never got the time back. So again, this is kind of like the civil rights movement. You have to ban slavery first, and then you can be president. Then you can be, vote, have equal rights, stuff like that. Let's ban slavery first.
Yep, that's what I was getting at, Robert. Is this is a step in the process because lots of times dads are upset. I was upset always. I'm sure you were, that we have to pay this money, go through this, and then we don't get time back with our kids. We don't get any money back, et cetera. So this is one step in that process, which is the most important step, you would argue, which is getting the time back to repair that relationship with the kiddo after an allegation. Because the thing that's not lost on us, but doesn't come into the conversation, at least in the family law court, I feel, is that this has done damage to the kids. When you're making false allegations, when you're attempting to do this and alienate a kid, this is doing damage with you and the child. So then the dads get that time back. That is the most important part of it, because then you can to repair that relationship with them. And it's not even just a justice thing. It's being able to deepen that relationship and maintain that relationship, which is trying to be severed. So that was just the point. Now, the next point of it is what you said is, it would be nice to be able to get attorney's fees back and write that into a bill and and other things. And we're going to talk about your other bill here, which does have some monetary compensation or fines, if you will, in that. But right now we're trying to just limit anybody from doing these false allegations, which happens, I would guess, and I don't know if you have numbers around this, primarily with dads or to a majority of the time with dads, try to nip this in the bud because it has become such a big problem.
So the time taken, time back bill does a whole lot of things. First of all, it returns the resources back to the court system. It returns the resources back to CPS. It returns the resources back to the district attorney's office and to CPS. The biggest travesty in all this, other than what happened to me and my children, was that 43 times those investigations could have been going to children really being hurt rather than children not being hurt. And I'm just one person, so multiply that over millions of people, and that's where this stops before it starts the behavior.
Yeah, absolutely. You and me, hundreds of thousands of guys that are listening as well. So awesome. Okay, let's talk about the three strikes law. So the first one that first, how many people instantaneously did this law impact in Texas after you were able to get it?
Yeah. So the time taken, time back bill took 6 months. I couldn't get anywhere in my case in 6 months. It took 6 months to go through our legislature. It went through unanimous, bipartisan the first time. The governor signed off on it on Father's Day. It impacted over 30 million Texans all at once. As soon as it came out, September 1st, 2023, I believe. And so it went into effect. And so at that point, I mean, I couldn't help that many people in my lifetime, just one-on-one cases. And that's where I found that legislation is the way to fix this problems.
Yeah, that's brilliant. So let's talk about the three strikes law. What are the three strikes and what are the consequences for this custody interference?
Yep. So there's two different versions of it. There's three strikes civil version and three strikes criminal version. The three strikes civil version right now, we were having problems with judges giving hand slaps 20 times. Like we even had one guy that had 20 interference with child custody, took the ex to court, never reprimanded really. And so we came out, and this is not just one person. This was happening all over the state, and it happens all over the country. And so what we did is we put through what was called three strikes. It was a House Bill 3181 in Texas, and it passed this session. And so what that does, it makes the judges give jail time on the third strike. And that's the biggest part of that one. So if you go back into civil court, not criminal court, that's the three strikes criminal version. The three strikes civil version is a passed bill right now, and it went into effect already, September 1st, 2025, that if you have three contempt filings and convictions in family court, the judge has no more discretion in Texas. It's automatic jail time. And that's going to discourage this behavior. Now, the three strikes criminal version is when somebody interferes with your child custody after you have a court order. And then right now, it's a state jail felony pretty much in every state when they interfere, but they tell you it's a civil matter to go back to family court. After this bill passes in your state, it's the only tool that law enforcement has. And when they come out, they'll be able to give a $500 fine the first time, the second time, and then the third time they get arrested. And if you think about this, everyone usually has at least standard possession. So that's every first, third, and fifth weekend, every Thursday for whether it's 2 hours or overnight. So your first period of possession that they miss is going to be a $500 fine. So that's Thursday. The second period of possession is Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Literally by the following Thursday, that's the third strike.
So it doesn't get dragged out. And let's clarify also for the audience that what oftentimes happen, and I'm sure some have already experienced this, if custody or parenting time is being withheld and you call law enforcement on that, they're not going to do anything. They're going to say, hey, that's a civil matter. You need to go back to court. You need to talk to attorneys. And then you do that, you file a contempt. You may or may not get the contempt ruling for you. Even if you do get the contempt ruling for you, it's usually something like they don't want to see you there, basically, right? They want you to figure this stuff out. And then, they continue to, there's no incentive to stop doing stuff like that. So what this does is it's not only in civil, but it makes it a criminal charge. So the law enforcement then, this actually has teeth. Law enforcement will do something now, because that's the most frustrating thing now is they just keep saying no, and law enforcement's like, I can't drag the kids out, I can't do anything. This then they will give them a $500 citation right there, like you said. Right. And then it doesn't take forever. It doesn't take like months and months. If they keep doing it, it could take a week, 2 weeks, right? And then they could end up in jail because they get another 500 citation, and then the third time is bam, they get arrested.
Well, the problem with that, and I'm sure y'all have experienced it, But after I came out with the time taken, time back bill and the law, my ex stopped doing false allegations and started interfering with my child custody. So I had to figure that one out. And that's why this was born. And I went both routes. I went both. It took 6 months to get into family court for an enforcement action because the delays and games and whatever. And it took 6 months to get to law enforcement and grand jury and everything else that way. So much waste of time. And literally, you can hijack the kids or brainwash them or alienate them if someone just withheld all those times. That's what a lot of you parents are experiencing. This will solve the issue literally within a week. And a lot of people come back and they're like, well, not even a lot of people. It's only one organization didn't understand the bill. And they're like, you're trying to jail protective parents. Absolutely not. Think about it. And I told them, I was like, let me ask you something. It's a felony right now as soon as you withhold the first time. That's arrest right now. I'm amending that to two times, and then the third time you get arrested, what it is right now. I'm all for protective parents. In fact, this will protect protective parents because now it's that $500 fine's a misdemeanor. You go to criminal court, not family court, to talk about this, and you can get it dismissed like a speeding ticket if you took them to CPS or something's going on. So you literally have 3 times to be a protective parent and figure out something, and they'll dismiss the ticket if you did something, to protect that child. But if not, this stops the bad parents, but it doesn't harm the good parents. In fact, it protects them even more.
Right. And it does not disrupt or interrupt or stop any due process. All the due process continues to happen the same way as the system. Like you said in the beginning, all this does is it just takes away what you're calling loopholes or people manipulating the system to their advantage. So that's brilliant. So that's the second bill. You've already been successful with these 2 bills in Texas and in North Carolina or in North Dakota, right? Has the 3 strikes law happened in North Dakota also?
No. Yes. So the 3 strikes,
okay.
They tried to join them before, but now they did a committee to investigate how much of this issue is going on. We already know in Texas, in fact, San Antonio gets over 1,000 interference child custody calls a month. 1,200 cities, that's 1.2 million interference with child custody calls a month that the law enforcements are having to spend resources going out that they can't do anything. This solves that issue. Literally, I hope that nobody gets a fine and nobody goes to jail. I hope that it just stops the bad behavior, which I 100% believe it will. But no matter what, you cannot legislate crazy. There's going to be 1% or 10%, whatever of it that's going to keep happening, but not the 90%. The 90% will go away.
Right. So, and yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I forgot to tell you. So when I came out with the 3 strikes, right now it's in Texas legislation right now. We've had a session, a special session, a second special session. There's a lot of stuff going on. There's 11,000 bills, so it has nothing to do with mine. It has everything to do with what's going on in Texas. But after passing it in North Dakota, time taken, time back, and Texas, I saw that this is how to change on a mass level. So what I've done over the last 8 months is sit down and I wrote over 450 bills. That's about 7 or 8 per state. And it's these same bills. And I've amended them already for each state for anybody that wants them in their state. They can just go to robertgarza.us. And there's a couple of things in there they can just download and put them in their own state.
We're going to get to that. Because I'm going to get into that in specific detail for folks. But I wanted to make the point that there's nobody that should be arguing against this. This is beneficial for law enforcement. This is beneficial for all of the different agencies that are involved, the mandatory reporters, obviously the kids, and both parents. There are no drawbacks to this. It just clears things up, makes things very definitive, and stops crazy, like you said, stops crazy, bad, manipulative behavior from happening in the system. So there's not when you introduce this in Texas or when you introduce this in North Dakota, there wasn't any kind of party line. Any kind of party line opposition to this, one side or the other. Like it went unanimously through because it just makes sense, correct?
Yeah, well, think about it. who's going to raise their hand and say, I don't think that that child deserves that time back after an allegation has been, there's no abuse found and no neglect? Not one person.
Right. Yep. No, perfect. I'm going to make that clear because, we're talking about legislatures. They're always fighting about stuff. Your bill, there's nothing to fight about in this bill other than maybe misconceptions. Like you said, the one group might have, or somebody might have a misconception about what it can or can't do, but there are no unintended consequences around this. The only consequence is that there will be better behavior by everybody involved, and there's no due process. So I wanted to make that clear. So let's talk about the family equality bill. So I'm really excited to talk about this one.
Yeah.
And walk us through the key proposals of that, such as the 50-50 custody as a starting point, and also the cameras in the courtroom.
Yeah. So a new start equality is a new start equality. It's 50-50 for both parents that are a fit parent, willing parent, and able to do it parent, and live within 25 miles of your child's school. That's it. The rest of the bill is, if the judge wants to go below those standards, then they have to have clear and convincing evidence, not preponderance. I wrote this in the bill, clear and convincing evidence on why they're going below that standard. And they have to write it into their decision, why they are going below those standards. And so that is all the difference right now. And then below that, it talks about that you cannot have 50-50 if you have domestic violence, abuse, convictions, and some other stuff in that bill. The bill is literally a one page and it protects everybody. There is no unintended consequences. There's nothing in that bill that anybody can really argue about.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Hi, fellas. This is Jude, and I just wanted to stop by quickly to let you know about the upcoming Thriving Father Transformation Program. Are you a divorced or divorcing dad feeling lost, overwhelmed, or struggling to find your footing in this new chapter? You are not alone. The journey through and after divorce can be one of the most challenging experiences a man faces, but it does not have to define your future. Imagine emerging from this period, not just surviving, but thriving. Imagine confident co-parenting, a renewed sense of purpose, deeper connections with your children, and the clarity to build a fulfilling life for yourself, supported by a brotherhood that lasts a lifetime. This Thriving Father Transformation Program is an exclusive 6-week journey meticulously designed for dads ready to do the deep work, achieve lasting change, and sculpt a powerful, positive future. Learn more about it at dadsgroupcoaching.com and register there. Thanks, fellas. See you on the other side. Okay, so this puts some responsibility upon the court in order to describe and put in writing what that preponderance of evidence is that makes them rule that you have to go off of the 50-50, right? So this becomes less clear and convincing, that they have to have clear and convincing evidence to go away from 50-50. So this makes it way more objective and a lot less subjective. So have you got any pushback from courts on that? Because we know that judges like to rule their courtrooms and have the flexibility to rule how they want. Has there been any feedback around that?
No, in fact, if you look at all my reels, I have lawyers, I have senators, I have Republican, Democrat, it doesn't matter. They're all over the board. Parents, all for all of my bills because they're good bills. It's great legislation. It's opening. And the problem with most of the courts right now is there's a lot of bad apples in there that have been there for a long time that do whatever they want. They let justice get to their head or their positions because they have immunity. And so there's really nothing you can do. And then when you have a SCJC, which is who you make complaints to in Texas, if a judge is doing something wrong with a less than 1% reprimand, and they could choose whether it's private or public, this is the issues with all these things. But we're changing all these things on a mass level. But as far as pushback on any of the bills, no, all of them are very pretty, they're simple, they're no nonsense bills. And like the time taken, time back, I could have retroactivated the bill and got 2 or 3 years with my children back, but I didn't do it because it would stop up the courts. I was willing to let go of my own time with my children just to be able to make these courts run more efficiently and for the people and by the people instead of what they are right now.
Right. And that's ultimately what the courts want, right? They want an off ramp to get this off their books, to get this done, do it as quickly and easily and as efficiently as possible. It's not the courts, I would say family law, and this is my description of it, is less about justice and more about efficiency and getting stuff done. And what you're doing here is really helping that. And it's not a huge complex process that you're well, it's complex for you in writing all the bills. So let's get into this a little bit. But you're not rewriting whole bills. You're not creating all new legislation. You're literally taking what is existing, the statutes and the bills that are existing, and you're just revising and really just tweaking some of those, which is, I'm assuming, one of the reasons why the legislators are like, okay, yeah, this is easy. We don't have to lobby this. We don't have to get into, it's just taking the existing language, the existing bills, making some small changes to it, and then getting it passed. Is that correct?
Yeah, when you can explain it to them and I'm not emotionally throwing up on them about my own case and my kids and whatever else, and you say, look, I have a problem with family court with false allegations. Here's the solution. I have a problem with interference. Here's the solution. I have a problem with not getting 50-50 from the get-go. Here's the solution.
So that's straightforward. It's easy. Like you said, it's one page, right? So they're not looking at that stacks of bills and needing to read through them and try to understand them or have a legal expert or somebody. It's real straightforward. You just described, I'm having issues. This is an issue in family law court. This is a solution for it. Can you look at it? So on that note, you said that you've now gone through all 50 states here and looked at this and have created a system on your website to help all of the rest of us to work on your behalf, or it's really on our behalf, but
it's your
you
behalf.
Created the system to help us go through that and approach our legislators and start the process in our respective states. Share with us how we do that, where we go, and then we're going to talk through that a little bit, because I know automatically people start going, like, oh, I got to talk to my legislator. Oh, like I got to get involved in politics now. And no, it's nothing like that. It's as straightforward. It's simple. I'm promising you, it's as simple as I've been involved in once upon a time, I had a lifetime in politics, or a life in politics, I should say. It felt like a lifetime when I was in it. But like Robert's described, it is straightforward and it is as easy as he is describing. So I want the listeners to pay attention to this, because we need to all now, wherever you're at in your divorce, get involved in this. Post-divorce, it's not going to take a lot of time, but we need to get involved in helping. Robert's helped us to help ourselves, but getting involved in Robert's organization and go through this process and get this stuff passed in all 50 states. So how do they do that?
Yeah, so you go to my website, robertgarza.us, sign up to be an advocate. Once you do that, you'll receive an email. Click on it. It'll put you in whatever state you're in, whether it's Texas, California, whatever, wherever you're at, doesn't matter. And you can be in 2 states, 3 states at once, because some people's cases are complicated. No problem. Every bill that I've written so far, well, not all of them, but 8 of them that I've written so far are on robertgarza.us. You literally click on the bill. It'll pull up the bill itself. It already recognizes what state you're in, so you're not having to thumb through a bunch of bills or anything else. It's very straightforward. So when you click on your state, pulls the bill up. The first thing you click on is legislative pack, and that will have 3 pages. The first thing is an email. You just copy paste it to your legislator. I already wrote it. In every state, it's already amended to your code, and it fits the time taken, time back, 3 strikes, all that into it. And so you just paste it in an email to them. You write your name at the top there, theirs at the top, yours at the bottom, and that asks for a 10 to 20 minute Zoom call with them. And so when they respond to you, you send the Zoom link to me, we Zoom in, you talk to your senator or legislator or their staff and say, hey, here's my problem that I'm having. Talk several minutes if you want about your case to them. And then I finish it off with, here's the solution. I mean, literally 95% of the time, it's a done deal. And it's that easy. It's already amended to their state. They read it. They see that it doesn't affect a lot of their code. You're not sending them 23 pages of revisions. It's literally one page. And it's done. Like literally this can go in. Legislation starts usually December, January. And so if we can get these bills into your state early, then it'll work.
Right. Folks listening to this is brilliant, because what happens is all of these legislators and look, it doesn't matter if you're a Republican and you have a Democrat legislator, or you're a Democrat and you have a Republican legislator. None of this matters, right? Because this is not a partisan issue. This protects kids and helps families across the board. So don't feel like, well, I don't want to talk to my legislator for whatever political reason. That's stupid. That's not stupid, but it's just in this situation, it doesn't matter. So what you can, it's simple. It's like, it is cut and paste that what Robert has created. And these offices, they pay attention to everything that comes in. So don't feel like this is a waste of time. They will respond to you. Now, it might take a little bit of follow-up, but you will eventually get a response from somebody. It might not be directly from the legislator themselves, but that could probably even be better, right, Robert?
Yes, the legislators are really busy right now too with their own lives, their own businesses and whatever else. And this is the off season. So if you talk to their staff, which you probably will get pretty quick on the phone, after you send that email, wait a day, call the staff, call their office, say, hey, I just sent you an email yesterday. Can you look at it? And they'll look at it while you're on the phone. When can I set a date? And literally they'll set you a date right there. They're super nice to work with. They'll book the date for you. And if they're staff, it's even better, because a legislator is really busy and they get, bombarded with stuff. Sometimes they won't remember who you were or what that was about. But the staff, 90% of the time that I've seen staff do this, they know someone that went through what you went through, or they went through it yourself. Very few times do we find a legislator that has went through this, because most of them come from nuclear families and just different things. But when you do get a legislator that has went through this, it is night and day. They said, I'll take all your bills. Like once they see them, they're done.
Yeah. And so legislators, folks, they are people like you and me. So they have an interest in wanting to solve things and problems that are out there. It's just that it's such a difficult and complex process some of the time, but this is not. And that's why I'm encouraging you to get involved with this. This is really, really straightforward to get something done like this, like Robert has done in Texas in 6 months, and the impact that it can have. It is worth the few hours that you're going to spend on sending an email, setting up a call, and then starting this process. And then you don't necessarily have to be involved with it from there on in, because what you've done now is you've set up a time to have a Zoom call or phone call with Robert, yourself, and this legislator. And then Robert's going to take it from there. And you can hear just from his experience and from what he's done. And literally, he's gone in and he's rewritten multiple bills in every one of our states. So he knows and he understands the nuances of this. Him explaining it to them is just a real straightforward, no-brainer process, like he said.
Yeah, I speak their language.
Yeah, exactly. And you're not an attorney, right? You're a dad that has had this experience that just wants to solve the problem for families and kids. And so, which is what we all want. And the dads listening that are having challenges around this, man, this is something I know we've already got somebody here in Colorado, but I'm going to do whatever I can to help that here, because we need to have these bills done in every single state across the country. And I wanted to point out, so on the 50-50 parenting time, the what is it called? The
New Start at Equality.
New Start at Equality bill in Kentucky, and you guys heard my podcast just a couple of weeks ago, in Kentucky, they passed something similar to this. It's not Robert's bill, but they passed 50-50 parenting time as a start, made it statutory. It reduced divorces overall by 25% in just 1 year. So the impact that this is going to have on lives across our country is absolutely huge. I just cannot emphasize it, guys, for as little amount of time that it was going to take each one of us listening to get involved in our state and go to Robert's website, send an email, set up a time. This can have just a huge impact. 30 million people in Texas in just 6 months for Robert's bill there. Can you imagine if we each just did this in each one of our states, the huge impact that we're going to have? Just please do it and get involved. So let's see. So I'll ask you a final question. I wanted to make out one other point. Robert also has a training on this. So if you're not comfortable still after listening to it, going to the website, signing up to be an advocate, and then looking at it, he does, is it a weekly or a monthly call?
It's
where
weekly.
he'll even walk. It's a weekly call. It's open to anybody. And so you can jump on that, and he literally will take you through the website and show you how to do this and answer any questions. I was on it last week with you, and you did a great job with it. Friends, this is so, it's easier than ordering from frickin' Walmart or Amazon online, and you're going to have a huge impact. So get involved with that. So
I did want to tell everybody
Robert,
that it was free. It's free. There's no cost for training. There's no cost for advocating. There's no cost for any of that. Now, if you want me to help you with your case, that takes away from the advocacy. So there's a phone number that you can call on the website, but that costs. But other than that, all the training's free. The Zoom call every month is free, or every week is free. The group of going in there, talking to all the other advocates, all of that is free. There is no cost for this whatsoever.
Yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit then also about, and let me point out this, Robert doesn't get paid to do this. So Robert is working full time. He does this the side and the impact that this is having. So talk a little bit about that consulting also that you're doing and how people can get a hold of you for that as well.
So because I spent $700,000, I literally have that much knowledge in what you all are going through right now. And for the last 5 to 7 years, I've been helping tons of parents go through this. The problem is, as you will know, it takes hours of time to be able to do this, to advocate for your case and whatever else. I can shorten your process. I even have right now attorneys calling me with their litigants to talk through strategy on where to go with this, because a lot of them have never been through false allegations. They don't understand the nuances. And especially if you get a seasoned attorney, a lot of the people that I was against were board certified. So there's regular attorneys, and then the top 10% are board certified. The law firms I was going against were board certified. And so believe me, I know all the dirty tricks. We can shut them down very quickly, and we can get you possession back with your kids pretty quick. But you can just go to, again, robertgarza.us, book a Zoom, and it gives you a calendar. You book whatever time you want, whether it's weekdays, weekends, whatever, after hours. It's all in there. So,
yeah. Okay.
But that does cost. So,
yeah,
but the prices are in there.
And that's, yeah, and so that's different, but I that's important for dad. There's a ton of dads listening, and we get guys every single week that are going through this, that are being alienated, haven't seen their kids for months, that are having challenges. So you provide some expertise around that, and it's an unfortunate expertise to have, right? If any of us has experienced that, but it can be mitigated provided you take the right steps, and you can't bury your head with it. I think it was the first thing that I would say, and you got to pay attention to some things that are happening. And so, as to your point, Robert, attorneys are not terrific at strategizing around this and mitigating this, because it's 90 90+% of cases get settled outside of court, and there's no issues like this. So it's only the small minority of cases that even go to court and go to trial, and it's an even smaller minority that have some of these issues that are going on. But they're real issues, and they need to be addressed because they're damaging kids. So Robert can be a huge asset and a resource around that as well. So support him in that if you've got that going on. Hopefully you don't, but if you do, he can definitely help you out with that. And then also go to robertgarza.us and get involved in your state in getting these bills passed. And I've said it now 5 times at least, but so I've been doing this, Robert, for 5 years now. There's not another thing that I've seen that can have such a quick and immediate impact on this family law system than what you're doing here. And you're a blessing to having taken this fight on. And it's not even really a fight. It's just refining a system that is meant to be good and judicious and balanced and fair for everybody, but that gets manipulated because of just certain people. And so all you're doing is tightening those loopholes. And so the fight for tightening loopholes so that we can have a better process is just really and brilliant, my friend. Absolutely brilliant how you've gone about doing this. So go to robertgarza.us, get involved in that process. Robert, anything else that you wanted to say to the dads?
Yeah, if you go to my Facebook page, please watch all the reels. You'll understand the bills, why I did it, what they do. Watch them several times because you might get confused. Dr. Warren Farrell said something. He wrote The Boy Crisis. He said that there could be no other system designed to hurt the family more than the family court system in its present form. Let's change that.
Yeah, well, that's a good place to leave it, and we can have an impact on that just by helping you through this process. Robert, thanks so much for being here. I sincerely appreciate it. Again, God bless you for the work that you're doing. I appreciate it, and we're gonna have you up on our website as our trusted ally. So if people want information there, there'll be information in our show notes to get involved. And we'll be keeping in touch with Robert as well. We'll be putting up his weekly call, so you can get on there if you just want to start at that. So we're going to be partnering with Robert to whatever extent we can to help him through this process. So Robert, thank you.
Thank you all.
To hear the rest of this episode and access the corresponding resources, visit thedivorcedadvocate.com and become a member of our community. It's free to join and will provide you with the resources you deserve as a divorced or divorcing dad. Thank you for listening. God bless, and I'll talk with you next week.